All right, joining us now, we finished the D2 side of things. Let's talk about the Division 3 playoff bracket. Obviously working a little bit differently than D2 to help us break it down. Jimmy Martin's back. What's up, fella? How you doing?
How are you doing? Good. I'm good. Good.
Excited to talk about this, man. And I think I mentioned it earlier in the show as far as obviously the biggest change from D2 to D3. You have the regional rankings that come out in D2, and D3 has it as well, but the automatic qualifiers in the conference. And I'm sure we'll talk a lot about it today. But for better or worse, it is very different at the D3 level, and I think what happens is your at-large bids become so coveted from so many quality squads. But I don't know, man. Anything before we get started? Just taking a look at the bracket from you.
I mean, I was pretty surprised about some teams getting snubbed, honestly. Obviously, being that River Falls lost last week to Oshkosh, that definitely put them out.
Yeah,
They were one of those bubble teams last week, but seeing them go down last week kind of surprised me.
that was tough too. There's a lot of hype around that squad. I felt like I'm not gonna go on and say something stupid like America's team, but it was a team that people I felt like rooting for, especially kind of a name you don't necessarily see coming out of the WIAC conference, right? So that was a fun team to root for, but unfortunately, not only that, they lose the tiebreaker, whatever you want to call it, for the Culver Isthmus Bowl to Platteville.
Yep, no Isthmus Bowl for River Falls this year. Last week I was saying they're getting sick of it, but now I bet they wish they were playing in it.
Absolutely, absolutely. But let's take a look at the actual bracket here, and we'll start with one of those WIAC teams. Talk about the region here with La Crosse and their opening bid against Minnesota Morris, and you've got some other big time matchups in here. Trinity and Hardin Simmons obviously jumps out. North Central right in this region. Aurora, a lot of firepower in this region, dude.
Yeah, I was looking at it. There's 5 top 15 teams in this pool.
That's crazy.
Which is This is probably the best quadrant, I would say personally. I think La Crosse will win pretty handily in their first round matchup. Aurora and Co will be a pretty solid game, but I think Aurora pulls that one out. The Spartans, they're really well coached. Don Beebe, the head coach, actually. So that play? It's like Giants and the Bills in the Super Bowl, 30 years ago. And this guy chased down the D lineman. He fumbled through the end zone. You know what I'm talking about?
I can't say I remember off the top of my head. No.
But insert clip here.
Okay.
Don
Not allowed to do that. NFL.
Yeah. Aurora's head coach made this crazy play in the Super Bowl, and I think that's his clean name. So Aurora definitely looking to make another run. They went to the Final Four last year, so hopefully they can keep pushing. And then obviously Battle of Texas, Trinity and Hardin Simmons. That's going to be a beauty of a game. I think that's the one I'm kind of looking at here in this bracket. That's going to be the closest game, I would say.
Okay.
Man, oh man, I'm gonna have a hard time picking this one, but I gotta roll with Hardin Simmons. I gotta roll with him. First time.
Another really feel-good story, right? Obviously, because you have UMHB is not the top dog in the ASC this year, so them coming out of there, had a chance to talk with Galen, and after that, I'm immediately a fan because he was just awesome. But that team, a very feel-good squad, and for all the right reasons, because they're a damn good football team. You talk about Wisconsin La Crosse. Well, who was the one team to knock them off earlier in the year, right? So this is a team that has some really statement wins, specifically in this region. Trinity certainly not to be taken lightly. This is one of probably the best teams in Division III football. I think by all people kind of agree with that. But then we'll talk about snubs here in a little bit. If you remember who the one team to knock Trinity off was, they're actually not in this picture. In St. John's.
Unfortunately not. Yeah, I was going to say actually because St. John's football account tweeted something today. They're pretty bummed about not getting in, and rightfully so. I mean, they're number 16, 2-loss team, but I mean, when you lose to Gustavus, you're not helping your chances. I mean, a 1-loss St. John's team only lost to Whitewater gets in, but they lost to Gustavus. So,
yep, that's definitely the one that had them knocked out. I know some people have talked about Co-College as well and them getting in there. I mean, their only loss is to a Wartburg team that we've seen has been pretty dominant this year. And, I think a big part of the question, too, was their strength of schedule, which admittedly is not anything crazy. But what they are supposed to do in those kind of games. They only lost to Wartburg by a score. This is the team that's done what they're supposed to do the entire year, and they beat up on the team they're supposed to beat up on. And now they're in a position where they're going to be really tested against an Aurora squad that we've seen have a lot of success these last couple of years.
Yeah, I mean, that's going to be a tough game for Co. But like I said, it's going to be a pretty close game. But I think Aurora might pull that one out. But
And I don't suppose you have a proposed winner of the North Central game down there.
I'm gonna have to go with the Cardinals in this one. North Central. Surprisingly, though, they're not a 1 seed, which I thought was pretty interesting.
That was
one of my notes to talk about.
More than interesting.
Yeah, I mean, being that they've won 25 games in a row and they didn't even come close to losing this year. I would assume the strength of schedule probably hurt them a little bit when it came to seeding, but
okay.
I don't know. Reigning champion, undefeated. I would have put them as a 1 seed personally, but that's why I'm not on the committee. So
yeah, this Belhaven team I think has opened a lot of people's eyes. They had 2 losses last year in their conference to Huntington and Maryville, but have bounced back this year for sure. So a couple some statement wins. Kind of on their record, and a team that I think has caught some squads off guard, to be honest here. Not a crazy out-of-conference schedule for them, but obviously they take care of business for the most part within that the USA South. And now this is the test for them, right? This is kind of the to see if they belong on this national stage. There's not really a tougher opponent than the one who has been here many times before, the one who is the reigning champion. But we'll see how that pans out. But over on the right side of our screen, we're looking at Mount Union atop this division over here. Jumping out on me here, obviously Grove City, another really feel-good squad, coming off that massive President's Athletic Conference championship, beating Carnegie Mellon and some of those big-time wins. Susquehanna, like the squads like that. You have Endicott, Cortland, Alma, DePaul, Mount Union. This feels like there is almost just as much depth, do I say, in this region as the one that we just talked about.
Yeah, no, all these are loaded. I mean, this is obviously a really good quadrant as well. Some of these matchups are just stellar as well. You got 2 10-0 matchups in this one. This is just remarkable. But I would say maybe the best matchup is Endicott and Cortland, even though they're both 9-1s. Alma and DePaul is going to be a hell of a game too. Wow, there's just so many good ones here. I look at this Mount Union Alfred State game. It's like, oh, that one might get a little ugly. Any Alfred State listeners, hey, prove me wrong. All right, prove me wrong. I just believe in the Purple Raiders too much. To be very frank, Alfred State had a pretty solid year getting into the playoffs, but I think their season will end this week.
Yeah, and I think the thing is here, too, is like we talked about, in one of the regions in Division II, there were half the teams playing in the first round in that region were coming into the playoff off a loss. And you just don't see a lot of that here. You see teams with some really good momentum. Alma had a statement win over Albion this last week in the MIAA. DePaul with a huge rivalry win in 2OT versus Wabash. And then you go Cortland, who takes down Ithaca in the annual Cortica Jug game. Grove City and Susquehanna are just rolling in their respective conferences, and these teams, Mount Union obviously in the OAC has yet to be even faltered. These teams are all coming into this with a ton of momentum, and so I think it does make it for the most part kind of harder to pick, because all we've seen for the most part these teams this year, outside of 1 or 2 blemishes, is just them rolling in their respective conferences.
Yeah, and honestly, having a veteran quarterback like Braxton Plunk in Mount Union, I think they are on their way to the national championship game.
Okay.
They're my pick from this pool of 8, as well as their side of the entire bracket. I think the team that's going to give them the best game, I'd say maybe Randolph-Macon, maybe Endicott. I mean, there's a couple pretty solid teams here, but I think Mount Union rolls their way into the championship game. So, fair
enough. We can stay on that. We'll stay on that side then. We'll stay on that side and talk about some of these squads in the lower part of at least that side of the bracket. And Johns Hopkins is one that obviously sticks out. Delaware Valley has, even though they've won, not coming into this with the momentum I think they want to have. Looking at Louis Barrios, one of our D1R athletes over there, he struggled in their last outing, very much so, and that offense has struggled, at least here a little bit. Now, they have won their 6th consecutive conference title in a row. Like, they have been dominant within that conference. Can they do it out of the conference against a Union team that has put a lot of people on notice? I don't know. Ithaca, kind of in a very similar situation. I believe a 2-loss Ithaca team who is coming off of a massive emotional loss in a rivalry game. So now we're looking at some teams that maybe don't have the same momentum coming into these positions, but still I mean, it's going to be a lot of great football, but I just don't in this region. Those first two, I do believe, have a lot more potential contenders maybe than outside of Johns Hopkins in this one.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. I mean, like I said, I mean, there's definitely some parts of the bracket that aren't as strong, and this is probably one of them. Um, I think looking at it, all these here, I think Delaware Valley squeaks one out versus Union. Johns Hopkins will probably handle Western Connecticut pretty well. I think that'll be a pretty solemn victory, maybe like a 14, 20-point win. And then I think Ithaca pulls one out against Springfield. I know they're considered the underdog because they're a lower seed, but I think this is a pretty damn good football team. And they're going to be pretty upset coming off of a really big emotional loss. And I think they're going to be – it's one of those things where, like, the hungry dog is going to run faster. I think that's where –
I like that. I like that. I think that happens one of two ways. Right after a big emotional loss like that, there's two ways to go about it, and one is to respond in that fashion, and the other is to do it the exact opposite. But the two losses for Ithaca on the year, one of them, obviously, the rivalry game that we just talked about. The other one was Johns Hopkins, who it was a 10-point game. That was their season opener, which imagine talking about the playoff implications there in week 1 of the D3 season. They have been a team, though, Ithaca, for me, that has won these close games and has experienced finishing close games. I think that's very important this time of year. You talk about their win over at Endicott. They won by 3 points in a very highly contested game. They beat Hobart, who is going bowling. The Hobart College squad, who is very respectable, beat them by 10 in a decent margin game. They go to overtime with RPI and beat them by 3. They already have a win over Union College on the year. Beat a couple other decent teams through the way, but the fact that they've been able to string together these wins with very small margins of victory and continue to finish those in the third and fourth quarter, I think that sets them up very well, at least for this first round. When they get out of there, you never know what happens, but for the first round and through the playoffs, I think you're going to see an Ithaca team that is pretty experienced and good at finishing those games.
Yeah, when you have a team that has a ton of playoff experience, you can expect something out of them, especially a well-coached team like Ithaca, a very prominent program. They've been here before. So Look for them to maybe make a little bit of a push.
Oh, yeah.
Sure.
Our last region here to take a look at. This one I'm very interested to see how this pans out. In the matchup at the top here, you have Wartburg and Illinois College. Illinois College, who their offense has been insane, partially due to a man named Destin Chance, and obviously the receiver over there as well, but their whole receiving core, but a few of them in particular. And that matchup, very intriguing. You have Wisconsin, Whitewater, and Bethel down there. You have Mount St. Joseph and Wheaton. And finally, it feels like the odd matchup out is Chapman and Whitworth there. In the rest of these, it does kind of seem like the black sheep, if you will, but there's a lot of really fun matchups in this part of the bracket.
Yeah. Fun fact for you. Not even that, just a miraculous fact.
Okay.
Illinois College has the leading passer and the leading receiver in the country.
There you go. And they were both our players of the week just a few weeks ago. We had to do a co-player of the week award because the two of them put up such ridiculous numbers. It's Destin Chance and Connor Brunstein, I do believe.
Yep.
There you go. I knew it.
Brunstein had 28 receiving touchdowns.
Dude, it's ridiculous.
How do you even – that's like 3 a game. How do you do that?
Oh, dude. What? I don't know. I literally don't know. That's ridiculous.
Yeah. But then Wartburg's got a really good defense.
Yes.
So this is going to be one of those games where it's like, okay, unstoppable force versus a movable object.
Yes. And the knock on Illinois College is their strength of schedule, right? In the MWC, I'm trying to think of teams that played that are, not to be rude, but that are worth a shit. And, they beat a Monmouth College team by 3 points. That was their closest game of the year, besides their loss to Lake Forest College, their first conference game of the year. And, these last couple games, you're looking at, let's go back here, these last 5 weeks, point totals of 56, 76, 93, 72, and 61. And putting up video game numbers every week, it's not going to happen against Wartburg, but to what degree? To what degree can they hold them? Can their defense hold up with Wartburg? We've seen them play, I think, a tougher schedule than Illinois College, but that's why you play the game, right? That's why you have to play the game, and it's going to be a very fun matchup over there in Waverly, Iowa. Yeah,
it will be. It'll be a really good matchup, but I'm gonna go with Wartburg in this one.
Fair enough. Fair. I think it's a safe pick. I think it certainly would be obviously an upset, but a shocking one at that to see them out in the first. But if a team was going to do it, I could see Illinois College being that squad, being that they're just such a wild card, and the way their offense is kind of structured, that they have the ability, we know, for them to come out and explode offensively. That's not to say they're going to be able to do it, but it's a chance, right? With some teams that you just know that that's not really a possibility. With these guys, it definitely is. But yeah, Whitworth and Chapman, admittedly, know very little about that kind of matchup right there.
Not to be rude, but this is probably the least exciting matchup in the round of 32. Again, I'm not really super familiar with either of these teams either, but it's still a game we should probably mention. Whitworth undefeated. I got to go with Whitworth in this one because they're undefeated. I mean, that's just what I'm going to roll with here. But Chapman being 6-3, getting in, winning their conference at 6-3.
Yep.
Kind of intriguing. I don't know. Maybe they went undefeated in conference and struggled in the non-con, I would assume.
Yeah. So they actually lost 2 of their conference games, the SCIAC, which I admittedly, again, not incredibly familiar with, but they get a bid to the conference championship game and they pick up a W versus Pomona Pitzer, and that right there is the reason that you have them getting the automatic qualifier right there. So a very sluggish start to the year. They actually start 0-3, Chapman does, and then they rattle off 6 wins in a row. So shout out to these guys. You talk about momentum and the way these guys are playing right now. Yeah, so again, for you and I, maybe not too familiar with these squads and their conferences respectfully, but shout out to Chapman. They seem to be playing a pretty good brand of football right now, and if that momentum says anything, it means that they have a really good shot of taking that one.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. And hey, maybe I got to change my pick. They won 6 in a row.
Yeah, they rattled off 6 in a row. I mean, it's very impressive stuff. I try to at least, check out here. But okay, let's talk before we get down there. The Wheaton Mount St. Joseph game a little bit there, dude.
Yeah, this is going to be a really, really good game. Obviously, Giovanni Weeks looking to continue to run the ball really well for Wheaton. He had a heck of a year. I think he was like the 10th leading rusher in Division III.
Okay. I
was looking at that earlier. He had a really, really good regular season. Then Mount St. Joseph as well, winning the conference, obviously really big for them. Kind of a tough draw for a conference winner to play Wheaton, I would say.
Yes.
Yeah, obviously, this is going to be a really, really good game. I need to look at the Hansen ratings. I like looking at those spreads.
Yeah.
I want to see what he has for some of these games, but
I'd be very curious. And I think with Wheaton too, you look at their CCIW play, they're perfect outside of the North Central game, which, all things considered, was not a bad outing for them, 54-35 against a team that we've seen just be on the kind of the upper echelon of Division III football here. But what intrigues me too is they start the season against UW Oshkosh and pick up a quality out of conference win. Oshkosh had a couple statement wins on the year. Certainly not a pushover squad. You saw them in person. So you have that solid out of conference win anchored by an almost perfect conference record, albeit a loss to the number 1 team in the country. That's going to guarantee you a spot. I mean, that's why you have this kind of matchup, being the way it is. And there's some really quality wins on Wheaton's schedule. And once again, a team that is certainly rolling here a little bit. They did have a scare against Washington a few weeks back, won by 1 point, but this Wheaton team is certainly poised, and they've got some experience in this position. So we'll see what this looks like. But that Whitewater Bethel game, that's what I'm really excited about, man. This is going to be a true test for both these squads, admittedly.
I don't think it's going to be as big of a test for Whitewater as you think it's going to be.
Okay.
The Bethel fans, I know you're not going to want to hear this, but I think Whitewater they're going to win this one pretty convincingly. I think. I just have a hunch. But, I could be wrong. Played against Whitewater. They're really good.
Yep.
So, Bethel's really good too, though. But, playing in the MIAA, or MIAC, I should say.
Yeah.
Being an 8-2 team, MIAC, I don't know. I'm just not sold on Bethel quite yet. But I think Whitewater's going to win this one.
A piece for you here, head coach Steve Johnson.
I'm just a believer in Whitewater.
Coach Steve Johnson over there. I do believe this is his last year, right? He announced that he's retiring after the season, I want to say. I'll double check, but they got that magic going on. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, hey. I want Bethel to win. Full disclosure.
Steve Johnson will retire from Bethel after 34 seasons. He's got over 250 wins with the Royals over there. If there's not a team I think more inspired to play right now than this Royals team, and for that reason, I think it's going to be very competitive. I'm not going to go out and outright take them in an upset. I'm not really doing a lot of game picks today, but I think there's probably not a more inspired team right now playing in this tournament, dude.
Yeah, you might be right, but I don't know if they're inspired enough to think that. Well, unfortunately. And like I said earlier, I genuinely hope Whitewater loses. Like, I play against them every year. It's like, but I don't see it happening.
That was great when we had Coach Janice on from lacrosse, and he was like, I love the whack, love it. He went as his rant, and then he kind of finished and he closed, and he was like, man, I still hate every single one of those teams. Like, I hate them. I love the conference. I hate the teams. That's how you have to approach it. But yeah, man, it's gonna be exciting, dude. It's gonna be very exciting. And I know we had talked about too, looking at this field, like it's not going to be this weekend, especially not for the D3 side of things. But here's the hoping that, especially somewhere in the Midwest, that we can make it out to one of these games and do a show on one of these campuses, dude. That'd be so incredible.
Rowdy. That would be rowdy.
It'd be rowdy is a great word for it. Do you have any? I'll leave you on this. Oh, a couple other snubs too. We can talk about St. John's a little bit. I did want to mention there's two of them that I wanted to mention here. The one being St. John's, and the Johnnies certainly have a case to be upset about their snubbage. Is that call it the snubbage?
Sure.
An 8-2 record, right? Their losses coming at UW Whitewater, and then their other one coming at the hands of Gustavus, and that's really the tough one that brought them down. But when you look at the rest of their resume, if you will, it features 2 wins against teams that we just talked about, that being Trinity, Texas, and also Bethel, right? Those are some really high quality wins for this Johnny's team, and that had to be one that was right on the fringe, dude. That's got to be tough for them to kind of see this result.
Yeah. Tough. It's a tough one, but you got to win your conference games, and you lose to a team that you should beat. That's what's going to happen. And they were like double-digit favorites in that game too.
Yes.
On top, so.
Absolutely. The other one I wanted to mention, kind of in a very similar situation. Well, not very similar in that they lost the game they were supposed to win, but John Carroll. And you'll notice the common denominator actually is these teams scheduling Whitewater and their out-of-conference games is what appears to potentially would have been the difference in keeping them out of the playoffs or getting them in. Right, and that's the risk that you run when you schedule a team like that. And for a new head coach over there at John Carroll to have his first game against Whitewater and to lose by 4 points, that is obviously respectable, but not the result you want. They're perfect through OAC play all the way until Mount Union, and Mount Union routed them quite handily there. And that's a game that you schedule against Whitewater that, okay, if we pull off this win, even if we lose to Mount Union, we're in a very good position to get one of these at-large bids. But when you lose both of them, now all of a sudden you're an 8-2 team and you're just in the mix of it with everyone else.
Yeah.
Both those losses at home, by the way, to Whitewater and to Mount Union. That's tough to swallow if you're a Blue Streaks fan over there.
Those are two darn good teams to lose to, though. I'll tell you what.
Yeah, it is, and that's what makes it so difficult. Like, you talk about the automatic qualifiers, and you're like, I don't know, man. It's tough, and that's where I was talking with Schwarzer, and we talked about like the parity in NAI football, and I don't think we get the same level in D2 and D3 ball for the most part. There's obviously exceptions. I think the top seeds in a lot of these situations will end up playing out, and that's who we're going to be seeing here playing in 2 to 3 weeks. With that being said, is there a team here maybe under the radar that you like to maybe make some noise?
I don't know. We talked about Endicott a little bit earlier. I think they can maybe make a push.
Okay.
I mean, I think there's going to be a lot of chalk, if I'm going to be very honest with you. I mean, I think it's going to be the Final Four is going to be Mount Union, maybe like I'd say Randolph-Macon will make it from that bottom right. And this one's going to be close. I'm going to go with Whitewater to beat Wartburg in that Elite 8 game.
Okay.
So that'll be Whitewater, Mount Union, Randolph-Macon, and then I'm going with lacrosse. I'm going lacrosse over North Central.
Yeah,
maybe a little bit of WIAC bias, but
yeah,
I mean, especially if we go to that game at lacrosse too.
Yeah. That'd be a spot. I'd love to make a trip out to La Crosse and do a show on campus there. I think that'd be electric. I think the people there would enjoy that thoroughly. Let's make that happen. Let's win a couple games if we're La Crosse. Let's really make that happen. But if there's a couple teams that I certainly want to watch, I'd say Hardin-Simmons, although they do have a daunting spot here. Even if you win against Trinity, you've got North Central. So a team that I love, although I don't think they'll make it, especially out of the second round. It's just a tough draw. But then the winner of this Susquehanna and Grove City game, that's one for me. This whole kind of area with Endicott is in that as well, in that part of the region there, that bracket. I think they could be ones to surprise some people. And then looking on over here on the right side, does Delaware Valley find their stride, right? Is this the team that, just finally clicks together for the Aggies over there and they make some noise? Could certainly be the case, but then they're going to run into a buzzsaw that is Johns Hopkins. So the way teams are kind of positioned, I don't see a lot of room for someone to kind of make a lot of surprise plays until we get maybe one of those 1 seeds that gets knocked off the board, which would be huge. But I digress, man. It's going to be fun. It's going to be a lot of fun to cover. And like I said, I know I don't know if it's going to happen this week, next week. It's going to happen. We're going to get out to one of these games. We're going to do a show out there, dude. It's going to be a blast.
Yeah. It's going to be sweet.
Sweet. But I think that's all I got for you, Jim. I appreciate you hopping on, dude. It's been real, brother.
Yeah. Hey, do you want to hear the stat of the year really quick?
That's right. No, I forgot. You got a couple good ones for us. Hit me.
Stat of the year. Luke Lennon for North Central has 34 touchdown passes and 35 incompletions. Are you kidding me, dude? He has more total, if you include his rushing, he has more total touchdowns and incompletions.
Yeah.
It's ridiculous.
There was another stat.
It's just absurd.
There was another stat that I'd seen on him in particular, and now I'm not going to be able to find it. Oh, here we are. All right, I'm just going to pull it up. We'll pull it up here and just react to it right now. And it says, you can see it, the FBS single-season passing efficiency record is 207.6. Only 3 FBS quarterbacks have ever broken 200. The NCAA record is 230.4. NCAA record. North Central quarterback, we just talked about him. He's at 287.73 with 34 tuds, 35 incompletions. And, winning 25 in a row, looking to repeat as D3 champs here. Shout out to Reddit College Football. How about that, dude? That is insane for him to finish off the regular season at that mark, playing as efficiently as he does. And this is most part, it's only the first half of games, right? Where they're blowing all these teams out. So keep it up, Luke. Like, that's fucking ridiculous. I don't know what to say to that.
He's making history.
Yeah, but sweet. Thank you for leaving us with that, Jim. That's a good note. I got to throw that one up on the TikTok or something. I think
for sure. All right.
Yeah, absolutely. But thank you, Jim. I'll see you, brother.